Hey everybody, welcome to tonight's special Christmas episode of The Ripple Effect. We just want to thank you for joining us and tuning in live. Tonight's going to be a special night. We have a good friend with us tonight, Weston Skaggs. He is an artist at Old Bear. As usual, I am joined by my very special co-host, good friend, and all-around lover of things that are Christmas, Joel Russo. I was a little slow on that. Sorry, brother.
I apologize for that, everybody.
Totally dropped the ball.
We're going to get that next time.
We're going to do better for you. But it can only go up from here, right?
We've been saying that every show.
It's true.
It's just, hopefully it's going to happen next one. So.
Yeah. Well, The Ripple Effect tonight is brought to you by Old Bear Records and Emphasis Films. And we'd like to introduce you to somebody who's a good friend of ours. He's actually somebody that really paved the way for Old Bear Records, was the first artist signed to that label. Joel and I actually co-wrote his first single with him, so it's kind of a full circle moment for us. It's really kind of cool. But our good friend's Weston Skaggs. He's from Ohio, and he has a new album out. It's called Stories for Christmas, and he's promoting it tonight. And so we just want to welcome Weston Skaggs.
Hey.
Hey.
Thank you for having me on.
As always, a reminder that tonight, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in into your favorite device that you're watching with, and we're going to read some of them online or on air. So that's going to be awesome. Throughout the night, because this is a super special Christmas edition of this show, we're going to be asking Weston, between all of our normal questions, some pretty specific, you could call them Christmas themed questions because they are. The giveaway.
Yes.
We should mention, Ian, before
Absolutely.
we go move any forward.
Good point. So this is Weston's album, Stories for Christmas. Just tune in if you have entered in for this giveaway. We're giving this away tonight, and so we know who the winner is, but you have to stay tuned in to find out if you're the winner of this. So just stay tuned in. We're going to let you know if you won this CD. But if you hadn't, it's still available on iTunes. Go to iTunes and get it there. So
Suspense.
Yeah, watch the whole thing. There's no way around it.
Yep.
Can't emphasize that enough. Okay.
All 4 hours.
All four.
Yeah.
All 4 hours, just as usual. All right, Weston. The first all-important question. This is an either-or question. Okay. So
Okay.
I just want to get your quick take on it. Lightning round. Clark Griswold or Buddy the Elf?
Oh, Buddy the Elf.
Buddy the Elf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. All right, now that that's out of the way,
No
we can
doubt.
get on to the non-important questions, which is, how did you start in music? No, seriously, how did you, maybe not start your career in music, but what inspired you to start picking up a guitar or whatever in the first place?
I grew up in the church, and my parents were really involved with the music in church growing up, and so I was kind of always around music. My mom was a soloist, and dad choir director, and so growing up I was always in like choirs or quartets or things like that, and I started playing guitar. I got one, rented it from Larry's Music in Worcester, Ohio when I was 12, and like rented to buy. So like my parents paid like $20 a month for a little while to buy that Johnson acoustic guitar, and so I learned how to play some hymns and stuff like that on there, and played some songs in church. And over the years, if there was a song I heard on the radio or something that I wanted to learn how to play, I'd look it up. I didn't have any particular like leanings, and it was just like a hobby in my room. And then I started leading worship at my church. My brother-in-law is also my pastor, and he planted a church 6 years ago now. And so I started co-leading worship there. And very quickly on, I realized that I was looking for songs that said really specific things, and was having difficulty finding those things. And so one day I had the day off, and I just thought, why don't I just sit down and write a song? It was like not the most naive thing for, to think, oh, that's just what you do. But like God was good, and it actually worked out that the song was it was good enough that people encouraged me, and that was invaluable then, and so I kept at it. And from there, I kept writing, and I joined an online songwriters group and stuff like that, and ended up coming down here to Nashville for a workshop for Christian musicians, and met a lot of great people there, and then met a gentleman, Daniel Ornelas, who is a mutual friend of ours.
Sure.
And he said, you've got a good group of songs there. Would you like to come down and record an EP? And he offered to produce it.
Can you actually do that in a South African accent? Is that possible?
Let me see.
He's South African.
He is.
South African. So could you come down here and record an EP? I'm going to mess it up. It's going to be so uncomfortable. Yeah.
Right.
Weston. Hey.
Okay.
Nice. And how many years has it been since you've been pursuing this as a career?
So I started at the beginning of last year is when I went part-time in my day job, which is as a registered nurse. And before then, I had been trying to be a worship leader at my church, be an artist and full-time nurse as well. And so I was trying to wear all those hats at the same time. So my wife was gracious enough to allow me at the beginning of 2017 to cut down time at the hospital and start traveling more. So, yeah.
You say wear different hats. This one is clearly your musician hat. What does your hospital hat look like?
Yeah, well, sometimes I wear the OR hats or whatever, like the bouffant, fluffy hats or whatever when needed for sterile procedures and stuff. But they're not as cool. You don't walk around in public wearing that. I don't know.
Do you ever wear that? I'm picturing it kind of goes with scrubs. It's kind of a tight, a bandana kind of thing,
and
like
you
a surgeon.
tie it. Yeah.
Ever?
Yeah. So George Clooney in ER.
Yes.
Yes. So I wear that occasionally going if we go to the main operating rooms or something.
Okay.
So
Good. That's very important. And then finally, your worship leading hat. What does that look like? What size is it?
Well, I generally don't wear a hat when I lead worship on Sunday mornings and stuff like that. But occasionally when I travel, I still wear this hat. Or I have some ball caps too. But
that's a very dodgy way to answer that question, but you did your best.
Yeah.
Okay.
I tried.
Cool.
I tried.
So you don't lead worship in Nashville then?
No.
I mean, that's a requirement.
Yeah, you have to wear a hat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
Okay.
I try to be culturally sensitive to my rural Ohio congregation, and
I get it.
And don't want to get too crazy here, because this is associated with more Anabaptist circles in my area.
That part of the country, yes.
Yeah. So that would be a really confusing message.
You could technically, you could, if you want to provide an illustration, you could wear the hospital cap and be
oh my goodness.
I'm
already crying.
It's not the healthy that need a doctor, it's the sick that need a doctor.
Sick.
Okay.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's not a gimmick that you need to do, but if you did it, we would like to know if you took our advice on it.
The traveling
nurse.
bard nurse.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll think about it, guys. I don't know.
Nurse of souls.
I'll think about it.
Well, I'm glad we broke this ground.
Me too. You guys are watching history happen here.
This is good.
So, okay, rapid fire. So, this is Christmas Weston, either or. It's a Wonderful Life or Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, that kills me.
Me too.
Yeah.
Colorized or black and white?
I've seen the colorized, but it doesn't quite feel quite right to me. Okay. I still got to go black and white.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good.
I don't think I've ever seen. Well,
Merry
I've seen
Christmas,
the end of it,
Bedford
but I don't think I've
Falls.
ever seen the whole movie.
Oh man, my mouth's bleeding, Bert. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should watch it.
I'll have to watch that. All right. So, a year. Well, how old are you? Late 20s, early 30s?
29.
29.
Yeah.
And you have 3 professional recordings that you've put out. So you've developed a lot of great content actually that you've got out there,
Thanks.
especially at your age. You're a hustler. With all the things and all the responsibilities that you have, you find the time to go ahead and I just want you to know. But in all seriousness, you got these 3 recordings done, and you're about to work on your 4th, and you're in the process of writing for it and conceptualizing it. I guess my question would be, and for our listeners that are in music, what would the Weston that's going into his fourth project say to the Weston who is going into his first that would be like invaluable as somebody that's a little bit more green and less seasoned?
When I was going into my first project, like one of the things that Daniel asked me was like, what are your influences, or like, what do you want to sound like, you know, and things like that. And I was like, oh man, I want to sound like, I don't know, like, and I sent him probably like the most confusing mixed bag of like all these artists, you know, and because I really didn't know, like, I was thinking of things of artistry in terms of like being like this person or being like that person, you know, instead of thinking in terms of like finding my true voice and things like that, and, you know, finding my own forms of expression. So I was really thinking of like superimposing somebody else's thing, you know, onto me, and like trying to be, you know, oh, that's really successful, or that's really cool right now, or something. Maybe I should be like that, you know, instead of going, oh, what's most honest to me, and what are my strengths, and then pursue things that way. So I was a little disjointed at first, because I feel like I was trying to do a lot of different things, you know. So I'd say to my younger self is to, you know, truly do what, don't write songs that you don't really care about. Like, if I don't write a song, if I write a song and it doesn't make me like laugh or cry or like feel something very deeply, then it doesn't matter. Because if it's not moving me deeply, or not a deep statement that I resonate with, it's likely not going to be something that resonates with other people. And lots of times I was writing and I was writing with other people in mind, like what was going to please other people or whatever, and trying to be that instead of like what was going to communicate most truly from my heart. So,
you know, I think, you know, to that point too, I think that's the difference between, you know, artists that are sort of like legacy artists in a sense, you know what I mean? Ones that they might not have the degree of like balloon sort of commercial success on the front side, but over a period of time, you know, they're taking their listeners on a journey and their fans on a journey, and are writing timeless songs and art, you know.
I think also it's important that there is, I think, a period of every artist's life, regardless of like what type of art, so visual artists, musicians, writers, where at the beginning you are kind of imitating certain other people, and you are kind of trying to recreate successes that you've seen other people have, and then the goal is later on, as you're saying, like to then turn it into your own style, and then find like the elements of all those things that you like, and it kind of amalgamates into your own personal style. So I would just encourage you in that, and let like, you know, that, and anyone who's watching, as far as if you feel like you're only, you know, chasing, like you're trying to just be an imitator or an imposter, like you're not. That's how we learn. You know, I think that's how we all find our voices. We find pieces of other people's voices that we like, and you cherry pick, you turn it into your own style. You know, I think it's an important part of any creative's journey.
Yeah,
that's true. I don't know if I was thinking of it in that way, but that's it's a very true thing, because that's a learning process. Yeah,
absolutely. Cool. All right, next Christmas question for Christmas Weston. True or false? It is very important to have a real Christmas tree.
Oh, I grew up with mostly fake trees.
Okay.
And so I've had real trees, but it's not important to me to have one. Okay. I love the smell of a real tree, but with 3 kids, like at one point this year we had 3 kids under 4, and just the logistics of going out and chopping something down, and
those pine needles.
And having them climb that tree and stuff like that.
Bo's he's a pretty active kid too. I mean, I can see him.
Right. He'd be climbing that thing. Yeah. So we have a fake tree for now just for ease, but definitely would go with a real tree at some point.
Now, I remember Ian sent me a video about the making of a Christmas album. Did you bring your fake tree to the studio and set it up?
Yeah. It was crazy because we were recording in August and it was like 85 degrees in the studio. And I was like out like mowing my lawn and like sweating and thinking like, I have to go into the studio next week. How am I going to feel like Christmas in this moment? So I was like, I went inside and went down to the basement and got boxes of lights and got the Christmas tree box and took it up to Batavia with me and ended up setting all that up like the first day in the studio while they were like getting drum sounds and stuff like that. I'm just walking around just hanging up strings of lights, setting up my tree and stuff like that. Wouldn't seem like that'd be very productively spent, few hours, but it was super beneficial. And then we had a little DVD player that we played like Elf and like Santa Claus is Coming to Town and Home Alone like on loop as well. And so that kind of helped everybody kind of get the feeling of like, okay, that's putting out the vibe.
Stopping into the studio on my way through and it was like I felt like the dad in Elf who comes home for the first time after Buddy is like staying there, and there's like all the decorations and all the stuff. And I'm like, wow, what's going on? It's like a total transformation. It's like Christmas land here. But I got to commend you. It really set the Christmas tone.
I believe that you hear it. I believe that you hear it on the album. So
I agree.
You can hear the little light bulbs.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, in a related question, one thing that I think about a lot is not just around Christmas time, but I think this kind of all the time. I think about how Christmas felt when I was a kid, and I remember coming down the stairs on Christmas morning and how I just lived for that moment because there were presents under the tree, and we were going to have some special food or it was this thing. And then one year, maybe I was 12 or 13, I was like something feels different. Like I was concerned as a 12-year-old, like it feels different. It's not as exciting, which basically is just the beginning of growing up. And the rest of growing up is just that. Every year, basically. Learning to be more and more real with yourself in that way. So my question to you is this: how, for you, how does Christmas feel now versus when you were a kid? What do you get excited about now versus then? And what are your favorite parts about Christmas time versus when you were a kid?
I think that magic when you're a kid is like off the charts, that euphoria that you feel about Christmas, and maybe partly fueled by greed of presents because you've waited, like you've circled those things, in the catalog, in the JCPenney catalog, like months in advance and everything. And I'll still get like a nostalgic feeling, like when I see like kids. Like commercials on like kids TV, like Cartoon Network, and they'll be like Hot Wheels, like and show like that little, a little commercial, and be like, I remember there had been a time where I'd have been like, oh, and then I was just laid in bed like thinking about that for like 6 months, like waiting to to get it for Christmas. But it definitely wanes somewhat as you become more like pragmatic and like adult. But then for me, it's like, it's all back again when you have kids, because then it's like you're giving that to them, and it's almost like an upper level of that same euphoria that you feel as a kid, because you know what they're experiencing. Like, this is the most amazing, day ever, and you're giving that to people that you love. So it comes back,
What would be your favorite thing? Like, let's just use like last Christmas or this Christmas, even what you're looking forward to. Like, what specific thing do you feel that the most about when your kids get to experience Christmas?
I love the hush of Christmas Eve. Like we like getting the kids in bed, and then like now like getting the stockings all ready and stuff like that. Like I remember it's just so awesome. Like my parents sneaking, into Santa coming into my room with my stocking, and leaving it, at the foot of my bed, and like I'd wake up like 3 a.m. and I'd be like, it's there, you know, and it was awesome. And so the hush of Christmas Eve is so great because you've prepared everything for this, and then it's like Amy and I up just like doing final things, getting everything like ready in the glow of the tree and stuff, and preparing for the kids to get excited in the morning. So
That's great.
yeah.
I'm just curious, like, I remember my brother and sister, when we were growing up, we had like strategic sort of things that we would try to do to actually like browse our presents like before the 6 a.m. hour. Usually it was like inspired by a requirement to go to the restroom that like it would just pass by the tree, you know, and maybe we'd catch a glimpse.
You'd linger a little bit.
Right. You know, and usually my parents would like blindfold us and stuff. So I'm just curious, like, I mean, they didn't actually blindfold us, but they put their...
right. No, don't look.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
But does Paisley, does she have any tricks yet?
She doesn't have any tricks with stuff like that yet. I'm trying to think. Yeah, no, she is still just really super innocent in that way, and it's going to come soon enough that she's going to get devious about stuff like that. My brother Seth, when he was like 2, he crawled out of his crib in the middle of the night and went and tore open like a little school bus, and we woke up to the sounds of him going meh, 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 like in the living room and stuff like that. So that's like
just making that sound in his mouth.
No, it was like all the bells and whistles on those like toys and stuff. And so you heard that going on in the living room, and he had.
And
gone
you were
out
like, "What? Are you joking me?
Yeah.
We're still in bed."
My thing is, I don't want to know what I get. And my wife, Amy, she always, like, she wants me to want to know. And so she'll, like, be like, your presents came today.
You're like,
and I'll
cool.
be like, okay, just don't give me any clues or hints. She's like, don't you want to know? And I'm like, no, I really don't. Please don't say anything, because if it gets spoiled, like, this.
Yeah,
and she, like, almost wants to spoil it just, like, because she's so excited about it from her end of things, you know. But, like, I don't want to, like, I would never want to open a present early or sneak it myself.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I got to wait for the moment.
Yeah. All right. So, Amy, if you are watching, see your husband's pouring his heart out here, please don't ruin Christmas for him.
Don't ruin Christmas.
Question for Amy Skaggs. Weston, your Christmas present this year is... I'm just kidding. That's not real. Oh, we have a question from Ben Skaggs.
All right.
Ian, you want to read it?
Sure. What is your little one's favorite song that you've written?
That might be Bethlehem's song off of the Christmas album. And thanks, Ben, for the question. Paisley calls that the bad guy song. And if you've heard it, like, we were, I was looking through the Gospels at the different Christmas accounts, and basically John has this very philosophical account of the Word becoming flesh, like it's not the literal story. And Mark just kind of jumps into Jesus' ministry. So we're left with Luke chapter 2 about the angels, and a lot of Christmas songs are written about that. And then in Matthew, it's like Herod and like the wise men, and there's only so much written there, but there's a lot about Herod. So in thinking about like You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, or like in any good Broadway musical or whatever, the bad guy has his entrance music, this kind of haunting, ballad. I wanted to write something in that mind for just kind of the evil King Herod part of that drama, And so as we were playing mixes and stuff like that in the car last year, and I was listening over things, I told her one time, I was like, yeah, this one's about a bad guy. And she was like, oh. And so then she consistently requested the bad guy song for like months. Every time we got in the car, like, can I hear the bad guy song? Till we're like, you get sick of listening to your own music, and you're like honored that she wants to hear it.
Yeah.
And so now this year again, she's gotten into requesting the bad guy song again. So that's her favorite for sure.
That's great.
That's great.
It's a killer song. It really is.
Thanks.
It's just really it's great. So on that note, guys, we're talking about Weston Skaggs' Story for Christmas album. He's talking about songs from it. We're talking about some of his favorite Christmas things, and we're getting to know him a little bit better tonight. So stay tuned. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Again, The Ripple Effect is brought to you by Old Bear Records and Emphasis Films. We're actually giving this CD away later in the episode, so stay tuned. We'll see you back in a few minutes. Hey everybody, I am Ian Zumbach, and I am a recording artist, singer-songwriter, and worship leader in Nashville, Tennessee. And what I have in my hands today is a beautiful Martin acoustic guitar. It's a model CEO7, and I've been playing it for a while, and I can't say enough great things about this guitar. First of all, the body and the shape of it is wonderful. It's a double O, has a sloped shoulder on it, so it's really comfortable when you're sitting and playing with it, or if you're standing. It's just a very comfortable fitting guitar. And then on the top, you have a beautiful Adirondack spruce top, which I love that because I'm from upstate New York and didn't live too far from the Adirondack Mountains, so I feel a personal connection to that area. The sunburst is absolutely gorgeous. The sides are mahogany and the back is mahogany. Then the tuners here, they're based on a golden era tuner. They stay in tune really, really well, and that's helpful for a guy like me when I'm strumming really hard. And then there's an ebony fretboard on this guitar that feels really comfortable. It's almost like buttery. I don't know what other way to describe it. It just really feels great. And it's easy to move around the neck with this type of fretboard. And then the tone of this guitar, sometimes acoustics have a sound that's too tinty or too low end and too muddy. This one has very complex tones and rich tones in it, which is helpful for a guy like me. I finger pick a lot, so I need those notes to poke through, but I don't want them to be too high frequency. And this has just a richness in a tone when I'm finger picking. And then when I'm strumming, there's a body and a whole robust sound that seems to really fill up a lot of space. So this guitar, it is really, really one of the best acoustics I've ever played. So I'd encourage you to go to your local guitar center or your guitar shop and go ahead and try one of these out. And I want to thank Martin for allowing me the privilege to play your guitars. They're just great.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ripple Effect Show. I'm your host Joel Russo with my co-host Ian Zumbach. As always, we're here with our buddy Weston Skaggs talking about his Christmas album, Stories for Christmas by Weston Skaggs. It's tremendous. Please go buy it. One of you has already won it tonight and you don't even know it. So how's that for some drama? You're going to find out later.
Roll.
Indeed. We're going to ask, during this segment, we're going to ask Weston some questions about that album and about what seems like a really fun process that it took to build it from the ground up. So, Ian, take it away.
Yeah, before we do that, we're going to continue asking you some either-or quick-fire questions. So again, we've told you guys before, if you're just tuning in, we're asking Weston some quick-fire questions in the Christmas spirit here. So, very important question. Christmas toy, Red Ryder BB gun or Turbo Man?
Oh, Red Ryder BB gun.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I have great, I actually got one at one point. Ooh. So not just because of the significance of the film, but also I got one when I was 12 and it was amazing.
And he's got both eyes left. So
Still have both eyes.
left,
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, Well, that myth has been debunked. By Weston Skaggs. So, but in regards to the album, I mean, one of the things about the album that I really absolutely love is that it has this like nostalgic, familiar sort of Christmas vibe to it, you know. And in view of that, was there a song on the album that sort of set the trajectory for Stories for Christmas? And if there was, could you just kind of like tell us about that, or maybe even just a moment that you had where you knew you were heading in that nostalgic kind of direction?
I think what it was it was over a year prior to releasing the album that I started talking about it with Chris Hoisington, our producer, and we started throwing back and forth some song ideas, and he brought about the idea of "wise men still seek him," like that phrase, you know. And as we kind of talked about, well, what will this feel like and stuff, we really wanted the album to feel like there's a lot of new Christmas music every year, and a lot of it seems kind of forced, or like people are compelled to just release something, you know. But we really wanted to release something. And what comes out of that is a lot of dated Christmas music, right? What we wanted to do was not do that, and do something that hopefully didn't sound like 2017 exactly, that we wouldn't want to come back to, but something that sounded like it could have been, you know, 1950, 1965, you know, 1985, you know, 2005, like just could have been done in almost any decade, something that felt timeless. And so Wise Men Still Seek Him was kind of that song that it kind of has like almost Bing Crosby like influence to it, like really old time, you know, feel good Christmas music. And that kind of set the trajectory of like the type of sounds we would use and things like that. And we also had that octagon organ, which we used as kind of the bedrock of a lot of the rhythms, and that set the old-timey feel a lot for it, and really gave us that classic, cheesy but endearing, you know, vibe to it.
And for our audience that doesn't know what the octagon is, maybe you could tell them what it is, and even the story behind how you even were able to get it to put it on the album. That's a pretty awesome story itself.
It was great. Chris is an ideas guy, and he sent me this video on YouTube of this. It seemed like a toy that was released by Mattel, I believe, in the 70s. And it was an organ that was with your left hand, you press buttons that play different rhythms and different backing tracks, and with your right hand, you can play lead parts. And so you would buy like a transparency. It looks like a vinyl record, but it's actually like a transparency, and light goes through there, and you feed that in, and that has all the backing tracks on it. And so what we did was we didn't use any of the lead parts on the organ, but we just used some of the rhythms. And what it was pre-recorded bands like playing these backing tracks and rhythms. So it has this kind of almost junky feel to it, because it's like low quality. It's like a low quality 70s instrument / toy, and it failed because the price point for them was like too expensive for people to buy as toys, but the quality was too cheap for people to use as like serious instruments. But like as a relic, and for the purpose of creating like an endearing, like warm, crunchy, lo-fi soundscape, like it was perfect for our uses. So I was like, yeah, we have to get one of those. And Chris goes, well, I have one, but it needs repaired. It's not working.
And side note, it's actually it's in my care right now.
Yeah, you should have brought it tonight and put it back here.
I drove it from Florida, and it broke down, and it was at Corner Music for like a year and a half trying to get repaired, and now it's back in my apartment. So.
Oh, nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
So he was like, I have one, but it doesn't work, you know, and Ian's got it, and he won't give it back. No. So we were like, we have to use this. And our mutual buddy, Ryan Clare, who is also an Old Bear artist, was recording his project up there. And he showed up to the studio one day and said to the guys, hey, I know you guys like different instruments, and I saw this this old organ sitting by the side of the road, and I don't know if you'd have any interest in it, but you know. And so they drove by and checked it out, and it was an Optigon, which the crazy thing is it's kind of rare because it's, you know, it wasn't produced for many years, you know, and they got that and brought that into the studio.
Wow.
And the rest is history. So, yeah, it's a cool thing.
It's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
If you guys are interested in seeing some video content about the Optigon organ, there's an episode of Harmonized Sounds that documents the making of that song, Wise Men Still Seek Him. So go check that out on YouTube if you can.
Yeah,
So
definitely. All right, Weston, we're getting down to brass tacks now.
Okay. I'm
Next
so
question
nervous.
is, your Christmas tree goes up in the Skaggs household. Does it happen before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving?
So people will get upset no matter what the answer is. So we already
we've
know
trapped
people
you.
are gonna. Yeah, this is a gotcha moment.
Yep.
I knew this was gonna
He
happen.
knew this was...
Yeah. Cha-cha, gotcha.
gotcha.
So what we've been doing the last few years is we don't have anything going on Thanksgiving morning, and it feels like the holidays. So lots of times we'll set stuff up, set up some stuff Thanksgiving morning before going off to grandma's and stuff like that, but the fullness of everything is not fully set up until after Thanksgiving.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You found your way around another question.
Boy, he's a
Very-
tricky guy, this Weston Skaggs.
Slippery wizard.
You are. So you're talking about kind of this retro sound and having kind of a classic element, a lot of classic elements that this album has. I'm hearing a lot of different kind of influences in it. There's a lot of kind of some kind of like 60s folk artists / pop artist stuff, especially like some Beach Boys kind of I don't know, vibe going on.
Yeah.
Were those things that you were thinking about when you're going into it, these specific influences, and how did you come across those, and how did they seep their way into your brain?
What we did is we tried to kind of reverse engineer things like that. So we sent back and forth albums that we really loved, Christmas albums that we really loved, and we tried to like extrapolate out like, well, what is it that we love about that, and why is that timeless? So whether it's like Johnny Cash's Christmas album, or the Beach Boys Christmas album, or like Sufjan Stevens, like I grew up with the Carpenters Christmas album and loved that one. Like, what makes that so great? And we tried to pull out not necessarily like ripping elements of that, but like, why does that feel so good? Like what makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up about that? And we tried to put that into it, and in that way hopefully make it somewhat timeless and not too much in any one style.
Cool.
That's cool. All right. You're going to love this question.
Okay.
Star Wars Christmas special.
Oh yeah.
Was it really that bad? Yes or no?
I didn't see it as a child, so I've only seen it as an adult, so that probably framed things for me. It was really that bad. Yeah, it was really bad. I watched it on YouTube in the past few years, and the Star Wars Christmas special is you actually can't sit through it and watch it all in one sitting.
I've never seen it. I mean, who's behind this thing? Was it George Lucas?
He didn't stop it, which I think is this.
Yeah.
He's complicit in it happening. So
It was like a
that's all that
cash
matters.
grab, but it was like nobody associated with, like, I don't know, it was like a variety show thing. It was a lot about
very
Chewbacca.
Very
it was
bad.
horrendous. There were pop stars. It was bad.
Boy.
yeah,
Please don't watch
Yeah,
it.
don't watch Star Wars.
watch it, but
Please don't
Yep.
but don't.
Yep. So having said that and squared that away, you've worked with Chris quite a bit now, and the guys at Old Bear in a
Yeah.
lot of different ways, songwriting, production-wise. I guess, from your previous project, Joy and Sorrow Meet, and now Stories for Christmas, what has changed in your processes from those two albums? Like whether it's writing or recording, production, like what have you seen in your process that has changed?
I feel more confident in interpreting like what's good or what's bad as I'm writing it. There's still times where I'm real unsure about it, but I find that I can know where I want to go with a song. Like a lot of times when you're just starting as a songwriter, you like sit down and you just start like trying to say things, but one thing that I have like more firmly now in my grasp is like I know what the arc of this story is going to be, because every song is a story, and so I feel like I'm more bold into coming into a writing session and going like I feel confident about the arc and the story that I'm telling here, rather than like trying to hack away at it, which can be done, and if you write a lot, you're gonna do that. You're gonna try to find the meaning of it as you go. But I've grown in my understanding of my own way of storytelling, and that makes me more confident when I write. So that's one way in which I've grown from just starting the process.
That's good. That's good.
Another thing is feeling more confident in my strengths, like vocally. And so a gentleman named Philip LaRue, I spent some time with him a couple of years ago as I was getting started on, it was the same trip when I was down here and I wrote Out of the Wreckage with you guys. And I spent some time with him, and he says, you know what, I listened to your first project, and you're strongest and you're most like confident and natural when you're singing either as low as you can or as high as you can. And so you need to try to write into your baritone range more and write into your falsetto more. And I've done that more like as, that's a real toolbox type of thing. That's not like an overarching like philosophical thing. That's just like a practical toolbox thing that I do more now of as I write. And it's made me more confident in and comfortable in my own skin in that way.
That's good.
That's really interesting.
That is really good. I mean, I've noticed recently, just personally, I've been, as I've been leading some music at church, I've discovered like what keys I hate to sing in and what keys I'm like, I like that key a lot. It feels very natural. So I'm going to need to write in that key more, so.
Yeah, and it sets you up for success then.
Right.
Yeah, that's important to know. It's important to know as a musician, like where that range is, maybe what notes you're hitting, and even when you're writing, you can think about like, oh, if I move this up, it's always good to like experiment with different keys, because sometimes it might even lead by the end of the song, by the end of you writing the song, it leads to a different place. It leads to a different energy that the song has. So the song might actually change based off of how you're singing it as you're writing it, and moving. That was moving. I'm moving the capo.
Moving a capo.
Up,
Yeah.
So that's I found that for sure. Like using your own range, like sometimes it can be a real creative tool if you're aware of it. We have another viewer question, somewhat related to what you were just talking about. For most of the songs you write, do the lyrics usually come first before the melody, or vice versa?
How I've been writing most often recently is, and we talked about this a little over lunch today, is I found that I write melodies most naturally if I'm not sitting with my instrument. And it's I've heard it's like a left brain, right brain thing, which helped me out. Left brain is tasks and right brain is creativity. Is that right? And so if you preoccupy your left brain, mowing the lawn or driving, where it's doing a monotonous task, your right brain, your creativity is more free to explore things. And so words and melody kind of come together for me in that way. And when I'm when I'm writing on an instrument, it's usually like chords, like chord progressions come first, and then extrapolating that feeling out to what words kind of fit that feeling. But I don't prefer to write that way because I fall into the same traps too often. So I love recording voice memos while I'm driving, and I feel like my best stuff comes out of doing that, and that's like simultaneous words and melodies.
Yeah,
That's cool.
great. Well, we're going to take another break real quick. When we come back, we're going to have one final segment with Weston. Again, stay tuned to find out who has won Stories for Christmas by one Weston Skaggs. That being said, stay tuned, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Sometimes you've got to take the long way home. Yeah, if you...
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Ripple Effect, brought to you by Old Bear Records and Emphasis Films. We're here with our good friend Weston Skaggs, and we're talking about his album Stories for Christmas. This is a special Christmas episode, so thanks for tuning in. We've been talking tonight about giving away his album, so we want to do that now. This album, thanks to everybody that entered in for the giveaway, but the winner tonight, if we can have a drum roll in the audience, please, we'd appreciate it. The winner of Weston's CD is one Michael Forku. Congratulations. If you could just send us
that
your...
guy.
Michael.
Yeah, we do know Michael. He's
That's
good.
amazing.
Yes. So send us your address. We'll get it
Yes.
out to you as soon as possible. And thanks for entering the giveaway. So generally in our last segment is where we talk about what this is about, why we do this. It's the ripple effect, and what we're trying to do is inspire you to get your art in the world. So we have this idea that your art or your music is like a pebble, and there's people to help you to lob that pebble into a pond, and hopefully that pebble is going to create a ripple effect and reach places that you hope that they'll reach, and hopefully inspire others to create their own art and music and create that cycle of a continued ripple effect. So, having said that, we're just going to ask you one Christmas question
okay.
before I turn it back over to
Yes.
Joel. So,
Please.
all right, Weston, are you more excited to see presents under the tree or to see a stocking on Christmas?
Like, presents are amazing, but there's something about the stocking that, even though you know it's not as, like, it's there's just more little mysteries there. So it's like rapid fire, like
Like these questions.
instant gratification. Yeah, in the stocking. So yeah, I'm excited about the stocking a lot. Like I think back to being a kid, like I was super stoked about that. One year I woke up, found the stocking was there, opened everything up, played with the toys, ate all the gum, and didn't hear anybody in the house. And I went and looked out my window, and it was still dark, and here was 3 a.m. And so then I had to go and lay back down.
Did you put all your stuff back in the stocking?
I was like, wrapped it all back up. No.
You put the gum back in the package. Yeah.
I had to try to sleep for a couple more hours after that. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is hard because you knew what was waiting for you.
Yeah.
And stuff. Great. Well, so as Ian said, we're going to ask you about these 3 different things. So the first is the Pebble, your content. What do you think makes your content special? What do you think makes it great? And what ways do you see it moving? How, if you weren't yourself and you were describing Weston Skaggs, what would you say? Hey, that's what's special about that guy.
That's a tough one for anyone to sound humble and answer. What I think is the strength and what I strive for is vulnerability and honesty in my storytelling, and so as I write and as I travel around and play live and stuff like that, I want to communicate something very vulnerable to people, and I think that communicating real stories and real feelings and emotions and real truth that I've seen come to bear in my life, that will be most effective and have the most impact if it's as genuine as possible. And so I communicate about like our adoption journey with our youngest, Boaz and Amara, and I play a song, Lay It Down, and I talk about how God moved in our family for us to lay aside our fears and our anxieties to move forward in adoption. And also with a song that we wrote together, which is amazing and still maybe my favorite and most impactful song that I've written. It was written with both of you guys.
Wow.
Out of the Wreckage. And that song, it felt special in the moment when we sat in that little writing room together, and I shared about the near death experience that my wife Amy had, and then struggles with infertility and post-traumatic stress and doubt and all those things, and I've been finding lately like great freedom in like any pain in my life or any doubts, any fear, anything like that just like wakes me up and gives me anxiety, like in the middle of the night, that we have victory in Christ, and part of me exercising that victory is writing a song about it. And so as I've been writing for the new project, I've been like, man, this thing in my life makes me so uncomfortable, or this memory, makes me really hurt. I'm going to exercise my victory over that by being vulnerable and honest with people about that instead of pretending like it's not there. So vulnerability, honesty are the words that come to mind.
Powerful. And I got to speak into that too. Just when I listen to your music too, there's a depth of like theological content too, that like as you're processing these things through your lyrics, it comes through. Like even in the Christmas album, we're talking about some of the like the elements of this bad guy Herod, and these different things, and wise men still seeking it. But there's an adornment of solid biblical theology that seems to permeate the songs without trying to. That's very unique and special. So keep doing what you're doing. It is powerful.
Thanks. The word won't return void. So when we communicate the word, that will impact more than singing a high note or something like that.
And somebody get this man a mic so he can drop it on the floor right now, please.
Just unclip it.
Oh yeah. Here, I don't
just
know.
do it. Yeah.
Might
Please
be
don't.
expensive.
Well, that might not be a very impactful like mic drop.
It'd be loud to them.
Yeah, it's true. All right. Cool.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
Please.
Sorry, I'm I'm trying to be clever about a mic drop, and I'm dropping the ball on this question.
Dropping something.
Golly. All right.
This is just the most important question probably of the
This
night,
is
so I wanna
okay.
make
This
sure.
is the most important question of tonight. Ready? Fruitcake or Yule log?
Oh man, I don't know if I've ever had either. I've
I
seen
haven't
them.
either.
I've had them served. Like I've seen them, and I've avoided them. I just don't need to know.
Christmas.
Innocence is bliss. Like I just don't need to know about either of
let's
those.
rephrase this question. And which one would be
If I had to
more
try,
appealing? Which
Scary.
one's more appealing to your eye?
scary to
Yeah.
try?
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw a Yule log at a party the other evening, and I thought that looked like it might be good if I was in the right mood.
Yeah.
I've never felt that way about a fruitcake. So
Okay.
Right. I've heard someone say a long time ago, I don't know who this was, but they said, I'm pretty sure there's only one fruitcake and everyone just keeps giving it to each other. Maybe that's true. All right. So we have the pebble, our content. Then we also talk about how high we get that thing hucked up in the air, because if you drop it from just a couple inches, it's not going to create as much of a ripple effect. That for us would be people that have come alongside of us and helped, people that have given us advice, people that have invested in us in different ways. Who is that in your life? Who has helped you? Who has helped you get further along than you could have by yourself?
I'd have to say my wife and my family first and foremost. You know, her, you know, being understanding and being, you know, encouraging of allowing me to pursue this. You know, she thought she was going to marry this really wealthy nurse, you know, years ago. But in reality, that is a really, like, I would have a really stable career path pursuing upward mobility in healthcare, and I've not, you know, pursued that, and instead have cut down on time and spent time away, you know, and stuff like that, and so that's tough. So it's only by her graciousness and understanding that happens, and then secondly is anybody who listens and appreciates the music. You know, anybody who's buying the CD or listening on Spotify or YouTube or anything like that is. It's like so humbling if I get a message or a text from somebody who's like, I was having a difficult day and this song meant something to me today. Because sometimes you release something and then after that fades, after a few weeks, you're like, okay, well, that's done. But to know that those songs are still out there, like meaning something to people daily, like that's special. And then anybody who organizes events, welcomes me into their homes or their church or their coffee house or wherever it is, people who are gracious enough to trust me enough with the responsibility of communicating to their people. That's a huge responsibility that I don't take lightly. So it's an awesome thing. And then the team at Old Bear and in the studios, those guys are incredible players and incredible hearts who help bear out that vision.
You know. Bear out that vision.
Old Bear out that vision.
Good deal.
Very good.
Yeah. So this is our last rapid fire question here.
Oh, man.
Okay.
What a long road it's been.
And this one is brought to you by the Jelly of the Month Club. So, Frosty or Rudolph?
Oh, Frosty always kind of bugged me. I don't know. Happy birthday! I never really understood like why he even says happy birthday. So, Rudolph that's an awesome. It's an awesome movie, awesome show. So
Yes, the original.
Gotta go. Gotta go Rudolph.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to agree.
Yeah.
I
Frosty
think
always
there's
kind of
more of a
bothered
hero's
me.
journey. Yeah.
It's the basic archetypal story. Like,
Yes.
what is Frosty like saying at like a mythological level, like an underlying
or an
level?
allegorical level.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't really know, but Rudolph, I get
Rudolph
it.
is
You have
saying-
the hero archetype. You have the
And what makes him different saves the day. His fault is what makes him special.
our vulnerability is what makes us
You're like a modern day
succeed.
Rudolph
There.
with a folk guitar and
You are a
really
modern
cool
day
hat.
Rudolph.
I powdered my nose. Is it kind of red?
So lastly, we talk about the ripple or the effect of what the content actually makes when it goes into the world. What is the effect that you want your content to have? The effect that you want to have on people, whether that's audience or people that you interact with. in the world, and what is the effect that you actually see it making, and are those the same? Is what you think is going to happen is what it happens, or does sometimes this sounds like a leading question. It's not, but it is sometimes does it have an unexpected effect, whether it's good or bad?
I have the effect that I would love to have is as a person, first and foremost, before being a musician, is I have a burden on my heart to be a peacemaker. And so how that bears out through my music is that I find it really interesting that the way in which my songs communicate, it seems to connect with a wide range of people. So I'll play at a church where it's like all gray heads, and that's an amazing thing, and we'll have a wonderful evening. And I'll show up the next day at a coffee house where like nobody's over 30, and I'll play the same songs in the same way, and it like connects, you know. And I feel like our church and our culture is really fragmented and polarized into a lot of groups that don't understand each other or listen to each other. But I find myself in a lot of different groups, and so I'd like to encourage. I'd like to be a peacemaker in kind of drawing people together, and I love the fact that my music can be used to encourage like intergenerational worship, things like that, instead of separating out into different services. You know, I love bringing different generations onto the stage in music that is appreciated by a wide range of people. And then in songs like Blush or songs like Pocket Sized God, I want to communicate to the polarized church as well, to seek to draw us together, to listen to each other, because we're greater than the sum of our parts, you know. And in the first chapter of the book of John, John says that Jesus is full of grace and full of truth, and he's not 50% grace and 50% truth, because that's what we think of. But he's 100% full grace and 100% full realization of truth, you know. And we have a lot of Christians running around who like the grace Jesus or like the truth Jesus, but the reality is he's the fullness and the fulfillment of both of those things. And when we separate into our separate camps of grace people who are weak on truth, or truth people who are weak on grace, then we're missing the benefit of the fact that we were made for each other and we need each other. And so I'd love if my music was in a way speaking to people in different groups and drawing them to the same table together. Not to steal the table analogy from you, man, but that's the effect that I would love, and the impact I would love for it to have. And ways in which I've seen it impact is a lot of times through sharing the specifics of our story, you know, and sharing vulnerability about adoption or loss or things like that people resonate with that. And nobody's loss or nobody's pain is the exact same as anybody else's, but like sharing honestly about yours, it draws us together, and it communicates like heart to heart to really encourage other people to share like their pain that they've been carrying, that they think maybe nobody wants to hear or care about. So I have a lot of wonderful conversations with people after these events about their stories and their loss and what they've gone through. And so that's the most meaningful thing that I see coming out of it is when people share their stories back with me, and that mine might have in any way helped them in finding closure with theirs is awesome.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. And I'd say you're doing it too. I mean, we've been on tour together, and just your heart expressed the way that it is. You know, I've seen you, you know, be able to comfort, you know, people that are going through tough times, that are in their 70s, and then 2 minutes later I see a kid who's 13 years old come up and ask for you to write a verse on his forehead. You know what I mean? So you're hitting all these different, all these different segments of folks. So that's very, very cool. Very, very cool to see it being, actually coming to its realization through your life and through your ministry. So very, very neat. Well, we've been spending time here with Weston. We're closing down the episode now, but we want to give Weston an opportunity and Joel an opportunity and myself an opportunity to just share some things and ways that you can engage with us or connect with us and things that might be coming up. So we'll turn it over to you, Weston, first. Being our guest, we want to give you the opportunity to promote anything that you'd like to promote that's going on in your music world.
Great. I am, so Stories for Christmas is out on any platform that you listen to music, so I appreciate everybody who does that. And I love Spotify because it's a great way to connect with people, and maybe not everybody has the shekels to buy the album, but that's a great way to listen. And I love Instagram as my favorite social media platform, so I'm at Weston's Music on there, and also on Twitter, and Weston Skaggs Music on Facebook. So if you follow my socials, I'm honored by that. And then one thing I'd like to encourage people to do is find an adoption organization that you feel comfortable in supporting. And one that my wife and I love is adoption agency that we've gone through is called Caring for Kids, and it's in Ohio. They have fundraisers and such that you can support, and also a place called Life Song for Orphans, and they give grants to families who are seeking to adopt, and they helped us with our most recent adoption in a really meaningful way. So Life Song for Orphans is a great way for you to help other people be the love of God to kids who need it in the world.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Joel, anything you'd like to promote?
Yeah.
My friend.
Yeah. This show.
Watch this show.
Yeah.
Watch this show. If you've come this far, you're doing a great job. Our podcast, we just released the second episode of that. So if you've listened to the first one, haven't checked out the second one yet, please do that. And then the third one will be out later this month. We'll be getting it out. So you're not going to want to miss that one. It's got some ground shaking moments in it. So please check that out. That's The Ripple. That's what the podcast is called, The Ripple. Yeah. And then other than that, We Are the Monks, who I produced their album. They were on our last show. Their album is out now, so it's called The Long Way Home. So check that out. Band I was in a while ago that we haven't done a lot of stuff. Called South by North. We're actually putting out new music. We just released a new song last week or the week before, so check that out, and there's going to be some new stuff coming from them. Woo-hoo. And check out my Instagram, and because there's going to be some other stuff that I'm a part of that's coming out soon, so I'm busy with that, but I can't tell you about it yet because it's a secret.
Oh, man. I don't even know about it yet. Man.
I know about it.
You do?
I'm not telling.
I'm so sorry. Ian, how about you, man? What do you got going on?
I would just say if you guys can follow the Ripple Effects Instagram account, that's a great way to stay tuned with upcoming guests when we drop new episodes of the podcast. That Instagram handle is the Ripple Effect _show. And so follow us over there. And I would just say also Old Bear Records. If you could follow Old Bear Records on their Instagram account, at Old Bear Records on their Facebook page, that's great. They're running a sale right now for Christmas, where if you buy either Weston's album, Stories for Christmas, through their online store, or Brothers McClurg's album, Back to Bethlehem, any t-shirt on the store is 50% off. So go check out the swag that's available on Old Bear Records merch store. And I'd say that's it. Have a great Christmas,
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
We appreciate you guys being a part of this journey with us. This is episode 4. We're already developing some things coming up in 2019, so stay tuned for that.
Great. And as always, plop, plop, little pebbles.
We'll see you next time. Merry Christmas.